And we're going to do a bit of moving on our backs and a little bit of breathing on our backs as well. We can't help but breathe on our backs. But also a little, going back to a breathing exercise we did last week. So the first thing I was thinking you could do on your backs, and you might well want to rub your hands together today, is the one where you bring your palms over your eyes. So given what the weather is like, we can rub our hands together. We can bring our palms over our eyes and just give ourselves that little bit of darkness to start with. And then, if you like, keeping your palms over your eyes, you can start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. Just easing your head from side to side. That's nice. Good. Good. And then whenever your arms get tired, so it depends how you feel with your palms over your eyes, you can keep them there, or you can bring, at any point, you can bring your arms to rest on the floor or on your belly. And just a few more times, a couple more times, roll your head from side to side. And using that movement to find a comfortable resting point for the center of the back of your head on the ground. And then let a breath come in, let a breath leave. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And come to tilting your knees to the right and to the left. So Alison, when you're ready, we're lying down. We're just tilting our knees from side to side. So a couple more times, let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then we're going to just move the right leg. So you're going to do the same movement, just tilting your knee out to the side and then towards the other leg. So when your knee tilts towards the other leg, it might well bump up against that leg because there's not a huge amount of space. And just do that a few times. So it's a different sort of movement. We're thinking more about moving into the right hip joint now as your knee goes out to the side. Good. And then you're going to add to that movement. So as your right knee falls out to the side, press into your left foot and let the left side of your pelvis come away from the floor. So this will start to help your right knee move closer towards the floor. So let the right knee start to fall out to the side and then press into your left foot. Let the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. And repeat this a few times. So Alison, what we're doing now is letting the right knee come out to the side, and as it is coming out to the side, we're pressing into the left foot and letting the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. This is with both knees bent. So we let the right knee fall out to the side, and as it's doing so, we press into the left foot and let the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. Does that feel okay, Tracy? Yeah. Good. And as you're doing that, actually make sure your knee is going over your foot. So make sure your left knee is going straight forwards over your left footprint rather than over to the right. Good. And the next time you do this, I'd like you to stay there. I'm going to give you a cushion under so that knee can come to rest on this cushion. So you're going to stay there. So it might be that your knee comes all the way to the floor. Good. And you're just going to have a couple of breaths. So if your knee doesn't come all the way to the floor, pop a cushion under it so that you can be in this relaxed place where your right knee's coming towards the floor. You've pressed into your left foot. Left side of the pelvis has come away. And just maybe let yourself have another cycle of breath there. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then come back to the centre. And before we do the other side, lengthen both your legs out on the floor for a moment and give your legs a little bit of a roll or a little bit of a bounce. So you probably want to see the other side, but we'll just put it there away from the body for the moment. Okay, so when you've lengthened your legs out, then come back to standing both feet on the floor again. And you're going to come to that same movement, but now on the left side. So first of all, just start with the left knee tipping out to the side and then towards the right leg. So you've got both knees bent, but we're just letting the left knee tilt out to the side and towards the bent right knee. Good. And then whenever you want to, you can start to add in that pressing movement into your right foot. So as your left knee comes out to the side, start to press into your right foot and let the right side of your pelvis come away from the floor. So this helps the movement. It helps the journey of the left knee out to the side. Just carry on with that movement, repeating it a few times. So your left knee comes out to the side, you press into your right foot, you send your right foot forwards over the footprint. Good. That's very nice. Good, well done. And whenever you like, you can then stay in that movement for a few breaths. That's it. So slide your cushion onto your leg. So stay with your left knee falling out to the side. If you need to put a cushion under it, you can do. And you're also pressing into your right foot. That's it. Good. And just have perhaps another cycle or two of breath there, staying in that movement. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Good. And then come back to the centre and again lengthen both legs out on the floor. Give your legs a little roll, bounce your knees. We'll move that again. Nice word. Good. And then what I'd like you to do is fold both knees into your chest. And hold around the top of your knees. You can do a little bit of rocking from side to side across the back of your pelvis. And see how that feels. And then we're going to carry on the sort of focus of working around a bit around the hip joints. And I'd like to actually maybe first of all just take your legs up to the ceiling and shake them out. And you can add in your arms if you like. And then what you're going to do is come into cobbler pose on your back. So this is where your feet are up in the air and you're holding onto your feet or your ankles or your legs. And you just do a little bit of rocking side to side across the back of your body. Good, with your feet in cobbler pose, holding however is comfortable. That's nice. And just remember in this one, you can sort of move your feet a bit. So if your feet come nearer to your bottom, you tend to rock more across the lower part of your pelvis. If you bring your feet a bit higher up, then the rocking, the contact of your back, you come a bit more onto your back rather than the back of your pelvis where you're rocking. So you can vary where you're rocking by where your feet are. And it just might mean that you can work into a place where you're feeling a bit stiff or creaky. Now, whenever you've had enough, we're going to repeat this in a moment to do something slightly different. Whenever you've had enough of cobbler pose, just lengthen your legs out on the floor for a moment and let your legs be long. And sometimes it can get a bit, sort of hanging on through the hip joints. So lengthen your legs out, give them a bit of a roll. And when you're ready, you can come back into cobbler pose. So bend, that's it, fold your knees back into your chest. Now this time, when you're holding your feet or your ankles or your legs, you're going to try and draw a circle on the ceiling with your feet. So if you draw a circle on the ceiling with your feet, you circle around on your back. So go one way, that's it, go one way, very nice, and then go in the opposite direction. And you can change directions. And again, whenever you feel you've done enough cobbler pose, you just come and lengthen your legs out on the floor again. Good. So lengthen the legs out on the floor. That's very nice, lovely cobbler poses. Lengthen the legs out on the floor, give them a little bit of a roll. And then we're just going to do a little bit of breathing lying down. So you can either keep your legs long or bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And we did this breathing exercise in Friday Yoga last week, but it doesn't matter if you weren't here. So it's very simple. You're going to bring your arms to rest on the floor beside you with your palms facing up. And we're going to be coordinating our breathing with moving our hands. So as you breathe in, you're going to have both palms facing up. And as you exhale, you're going to turn just your right hand down towards the floor. And then as you breathe in, turn that hand back up, so both palms are turned up. And then as you exhale, turn your left hand down onto the floor. And as you breathe in, turn it back up again, so both palms are up. So exhaling again, we turn the right palm down. And then as we breathe in, we turn both palms up. And then back to the left side as you exhale, turning that hand down. So just keep with this very simple pattern for a few more cycles of breath. Breathing in, your palms both turn up. And then as you exhale, you're alternating. One hand turns down. And for the next exhalation, the other one turns down. And try to sort of roll your hands as much on the floor as possible so you're keeping the movement as effortless as you can. Breathing in, both palms up. Breathing out, one palm turns down. And working with your own breath length. So just feeling that you don't have to hurry your breathing, but nor are you trying to make it longer than it actually is. I'd like you to do this once more on each side. So you're going to turn each palm down once more in your own time. And when you've finished, you could bring your hands onto your belly, so I know that you've finished. And just come to feeling perhaps 2 or 3 cycles of breath moving in the front of your body. And so in a moment, we're going to come over onto hands and knees. And the first thing we're going to do is dog pose. So some of you have already done dog pose, so we can come back and see how it feels again. And if you haven't already done dog pose, it would just be that seeing how does it feel for the first time today. So no rush, but making your way over onto your hands and knees. And settling your hands down on the floor when you're ready, tucking your toes under, maybe moving into dog as you exhale, rocking your hips back over your heels. And when you arrive in your dog pose, just noticing, what presents itself to you in your body. Maybe it's shoulders, maybe it's backs of the legs. Maybe it's the neck, you need to really let the head go. So usually most of our challenges in dog pose is that we just need to bend our knees a little bit more. Try to rest through the arms more, let the head go. Give yourselves a couple more breaths in your dog pose. Perhaps bending one knee, bending the other. And very nice. From dog pose. Let you've done enough dog. Lovely. You're going to come down onto hands and knees. So as you've just arrived in dog, you can spend a bit longer there. When you come onto hands and knees, yes, you can. If you want to take the weight off your hands and wrists, come onto your forearms. You're going to do a bit of tail wagging. So you can do a bit of tail wagging on your hands, and if you need to give your wrists a chance to release and ease out, come down onto your forearms and carry on wagging your tail there. Good. And then we're going to carry on these tail wagging movements, coming into child pose and just seeing how it feels to sort of wiggle our pelvis a bit in child pose. So coming back into child, it's obviously a different feeling if we've got our legs folded, but can you still find a bit of side to side movement of your pelvis in child? So a little bit of, a little bit of side to side movement of the pelvis. It doesn't have to be huge. And as you do so, letting your forehead and elbows rest on the ground. Good. And then from child pose, you're going to slither forwards onto your belly. And you're going to settle on your belly, so maybe one hand on top of the other, and your cheek or your forehead resting on the back of your hands. And all you're going to do here is a bit of wiggling your pelvis. You can wiggle your pelvis a bit. You could maybe then stop wiggling your pelvis, see how it feels to have a quiet breath or two. And you could wiggle your pelvis a little bit more. And then maybe another quiet cycle of breath. So feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then we're going to be going back into dog pose. So sometimes I always feel it's a bit of an awkward position to come out of lying on the belly. So it might be you want to come through child pose or just onto hands and knees. And then planting down through your hands, and one more time coming into dog pose. So tucking your toes under, exhaling, coming up into dog. And again, noticing how dog pose feels. So this might be your second dog pose, or possibly your third or even fourth. So what can you do to help your dog pose undo? In terms of bending the knees, letting the head go, resting through the arms. Feeling the flow of your breath through your body. So we're just very much still in that stage of trying to, maybe that stage goes on for the whole of class, of trying to release tension. Good, that looks very nice. Okay. Yes, nice with the head. When you come back out of dog, you're going to be doing some cat movements on hands and knees. And again, you could be coming down onto your forearms if you wanted to ease out your wrists. So you can be on your forearms, you can be rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And you can also be doing the same thing on hands and knees. A bit of cat, a bit of rounding and dipping. Good. And in a moment, when you've done a couple more cycles of cat, from a rounded up cat, you're going to rock your hips back over your heels. Yes, what I was about to miss out is I just want to add a bit of movement into these into rocking back into cats. So you could tuck your toes under. You're going to be rounding your back, rocking your hips back over your heels. And then coming back with your bringing your shoulders back over your hands, dipping your spine down. So it's up to you whether you have your feet flat or tucked under. So you're rounding your back to the ceiling, you're staying rounded to rock your hips back over your heels, and then you're dipping your spine down to bring your shoulders back over your hands. So we're still doing these cat movements, but we're now adding in this sort of backwards and forwards to them. Good. Just see if you can feel the flow of your breath. So maybe exhaling, rounding up, rocking back. You could breathe in when your hips are back over your heels. And perhaps exhaling as you move forwards again. It doesn't really matter too much. So do this a couple more times, rounding your back, staying rounded to rock back. And then dipping your spine down as you bring your shoulders back over your hands. Good. And then the next time you round your back to the ceiling, untuck your toes and go all the way back, rounding your back all the way back into child pose. Just for a breath or two, because we're in a moment again, we're going to slither forwards onto our bellies. So a breath or two in child pose. If it feels nice for the lower back, then stay there a little bit longer. But then when you're ready, come forwards again onto your belly. Now this time on your belly, I'd like you to have your arms in a slightly different position. So your arms are either side of your head and your forehead's on the ground. So your hands are going to be further forwards than your head. So slide your arms forwards a bit more, Tracy. And yeah, just, so it's almost like, yeah, your arms are in a sort of big circle, either side of your head or around your head. And yeah, you can start by wiggling your pelvis again if you want to. But what we're going to be doing this time on our belly is just that little lifting movement of the head. So as we exhale, sinking down into the elbows and the forearms and the hands and lifting the head, but trying to feel that we're using the muscles in the upper back. So this lifting movement of the head is connected to the upper back. And it's helpful to do this little movement as you breathe out. So sinking down into the elbows and the forearms, that's very nice, lifting your head. And then coming back down as you breathe in. You can stay in that little back bend. You can stay there. You could have a cycle of breath supporting your head. So feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Come back down, and you can try that one more time. So sink into your elbows and your forearms, let your head come up. And then have a cycle of breath there, so where your head is lifted. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave. And then let your head come back down. And maybe just rest on your belly for a breath or two, and you can wiggle your pelvis again. And if you would prefer to rest in child pose, you could fold back into child pose. So yeah, so just for a moment, either be in child pose or on your belly. And then we're going back into dog pose again. So I say one last dog pose, I'm sure it won't be the last one, but one more dog pose. Whenever you're ready. Again, taking that time to plant your hands on the floor, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips up and back in dog. And again, whatever you notice in dog, so noticing good how your body feels, and then what would be helpful for you in terms of dog. Is it really letting the head go? Is it that focus on resting through the arms, undoing across the back of the shoulders? Is it bending both knees or one knee at a time? Good. And yes, coming down whenever you're ready. Now, what we're going to do when we come out of dog is from hands and knees, we're going to come into this position where we step one foot forwards. So so we've got the front knee over the front heel. So we're not in a lunge yet, and my back knee needs a bit more padding in this one. So if you're on a sort of soft surface, a carpet and a mat, you'll probably be fine. So we've got the front knee over the front heel. We've got that sideways distance. So make sure in this one that you've got this sideways space so you can feel steady. And then we turn towards our top leg. That's it. So the front hand can come to rest on the top leg and try and give away your back arm. So we've got this focus of the back shoulder moving back and also down. So we can think about the back shoulder moving back and down. So if we give away that back arm, that helps with the down movement. Good. And this is a movement for the rib cage and also trying to feel steady. Very nice. Now from here, we're going to untwist and then fold over the front leg. And we're going to then tuck the toes under in the back foot and walk the back leg back. So we do come on into a lunge. And then perhaps the first thing in the lunge is to look down at your front foot and just check that that front foot is well planted on the floor. So sometimes we, in all the stretchiness of lunge, we can forget about what's going on in that front foot. So just checking the front foot. And then obviously exhaling, using the out breath to help give the weight of our pelvis to the ground. So this is all about that releasing, as we know, through the front of the back leg thigh. You have another couple of breaths. So when you've had enough in lunge, you're going to be easing back out of lunge. So by untucking your back toe and then rocking your weight backwards, you can come onto the heel of the front foot. Good. And ease out of lunge. And then we'll do those two things on the other side. So you're going to step your other knee forwards now. So hands and knees coming forwards with the other knee. Settling yourself down. Good. So front knee over the heel. And then turning towards that front leg. And again, our focus is the shoulder, the back shoulder moving back and down. So if we give away the arm, shake out the arm. The hand could rest on the back of the pelvis, that's also fine. But we just want the feeling of the arm being as relaxed as possible. And the front arm too. And have a breath or two here. We're trying to feel steady. It's not always the easiest place to feel steady. Good, very nice. And then untwisting. Folding forwards over your front leg, tucking those back toes under if you like to walk your back foot back. So you find that stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. That lunge stretch, good. You're right there, Tracy. Yeah, just do too much. No, good. I'm pleased to hear it. And then check in with your front foot. So have a look at that front foot. Just make sure it's well planted on the floor. And then settling down, giving the weight of your pelvis down to the ground. You can have another couple of breaths there. And of course, when you're ready to come out, we can ease out. Very nice. Out. So we've come into the lunge. So folding forwards over your front foot. And then, so you might want a little bit of time in your lunge. Everyone else is sort of just coming to, I think, that easing out stage. Good. And from here, I think, yes, we're going to be coming back onto our belly. Maybe just watch for a moment. I mean, it's going to be obvious for you. We're going to keep one arm beside the head, and we're going to be catching our foot in our hand, and we're going to be doing this one where we pull the foot back away from our bottom. But first of all, just come and settle on your belly. And Tracy, you might want to go very far with this.
I'll do that one.
Yeah, okay. You might want to do the one we just did before then. So you might just want to do this one.
The lifting.
The lifting. So settle on your belly. Start with maybe both hands by the side of your head and give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. And what I'd like you to do first of all is then bring one arm down by the side of your body and just see how it feels to catch that foot. You're not going to maybe just do it a couple of times. So bend the knee, lift the foot, catch the foot. And then try the same thing on the other side. So how does it feel to catch the foot on the other side? It's just really that there may be one side that's a little bit easier. So when you tried that on both sides, and you come into child pose and you've had enough, Tracy. When you tried that on both sides, come back to the easier side. So you've got one arm by the side of your head. You could bring your head so it turns away from that arm. And then the other arm's going to catch your foot. And then it's that movement that you're pulling your foot up and back away from your bottom. And that starts to lift your shoulder. And you can also let your head lift. You can try it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times maybe. So pulling the foot back away from your bottom, letting your shoulder be lifted, and then lift your head. Okay, so the head won't automatically lift, but it will maybe start to feel lighter. And you can then let your head lift. Good. Good. And so when you've done that 2 or 3 times on the first side, then swap over. So you're going to bring the other arm by the side of your head. You're going to catch your foot. And then you're going to, that's it, pull your heel away from your bottom. So the movement that's going to pull your shoulder back is your heel moving away from your bottom. And you might find that your knee comes away from the floor. That's fine. But feel the heels moving away from the bottom and you can lift your head. Good. And do that 2 or 3 times on the side too. Very nice. And then from here, when you've done that 2 or 3 times on the second side, you just release your leg. You can give your pelvis a little wiggle. And then either have a couple of quiet breaths on your belly if you're happy there, or fold into child pose. So it might be quite nice to come into child, but if you're happier, Rosie, you look very happy on your belly. If you're happy on your belly, stay on your belly. So that's just your choice at this point. And then we're going to be making our way up into standing in a moment through dog pose and a forward bend. But have as much time as you like in child pose. And then we're going to be taking some of the movements we've been doing into some standing balances. So from hands and knees when you're ready, tucking your toes under. Exhaling, rocking your hips back over your heels. And just, see how dog pose feels, have a few breaths in dog. And then moving on to a forward bend for a few breaths. So give yourself a few breaths in your forward bend. If you're happier with your knees bent and your elbows resting on your thighs, you can be there. Letting your head go, feeling your heels and the rest of your feet really rooting down into the ground. And then whenever you're ready, you can make your way up into standing, walking your hands up the front of your thighs if you like, or sinking into your heels and rolling up. Good. And it might be time to have a little drink of water. And then once we're in standing, let's just sort of do sort of a bit of swinging of the arms, loose, easy swinging twist before we start to focus in on a bit of balancing. Good. You can let your arms, that's nice, let your hands slap onto your body. Good. A couple more times do that, and then we'll let that go. And we'll bring our attention to our feet. So you could just for a moment look down at your feet, organise your feet so they're a little distance apart. And the space between your big toe and second toe is what's pointing forwards. That's it, very nice. And then stop looking at your feet, perhaps find a point to focus on in front of you. And we're going to do that little movement where we bring our weight forwards onto the balls of both feet. And as we do so, we try to stay wide across the ball of the foot, of each foot. So we feel our weight, not just in the base of the big toe, but also in the base of the little toe. And come up and down a couple more times. Good. And then next time or the time after, if you feel steady, we'll stay up there for a couple of breaths. We can let the arms float up. We can let the shoulders drop. Just have a couple of quiet breaths here. Shoulders feeling soft and relaxed. Jaw relaxed, lower ribs quiet. Just noticing how our ankles and calves are coping with this. Good. And as you come down in a moment, as your heels reach the ground, you can then swoop your arms down, either to rest your elbows on your thighs or to release your arms to the ground. And once you're in your forward bend, if you want to sweep your arms from side to side around your feet, you could do. A little bit of that movement is helpful. And just give yourself another breath or two in your forward bend. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, sink down into your heels, come back up into standing. When you arrive back up and standing, you can give each foot a shake out. So we're going to come back, we're going to come into tree pose, which is going back to some of the hip things we were doing on our back right at the beginning of class. And in my notes, it says an easy tree pose. So you're going to think of a tree pose which is easy for you. So it might be foot on the ankle, it might even be hand on the wall. So start by looking at your feet. So easy and familiar. Looking at the feet, just making sure they're well organised, and then stop looking at your feet, looking ahead of you, finding a point to focus on. And a little bit of swaying from side to side. So you can make a decision about which foot you'd like to stand on first. That's decision number one. Coming up onto the ball of the other foot. And then just that little movement of the pelvis stays facing forwards, the knee turns out to the side. Where are we going to bring our foot? On the inside of our standing leg. So ankle, we could bring the foot a bit higher up, just above the knee, or right to the top of our thigh. And again, just thinking about sort of an easy, familiar tree pose. The hands can then gather in Anjali Mudra at our heart. So we're coming to something familiar. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. But there's perhaps something calming in its familiarity. Sense of we're in tree pose. And if we feel steady, we could let our arms grow up. This is when we feel almost tree-like. Letting the shoulders drop. See if we can feel the flow of our breath through us. And that feeling of being aware and alive from the heel to the fingertips. You can gather your hands back to your heart. Good. Whenever you've had enough, brilliant tree poses. Whenever you've had enough, you come down and have a little shake out. Yes, and I was just thinking, Tracy, if your pelvis, if your lower back starts feeling achy and standing, you can sort of do that wiggling of your pelvis. Or like that's it. Bending your knees and wiggling your pelvis. So yeah, shake out of legs, shake out of pelvis if you like, and then we'll come on to side 2 of tree. So again, just starting by looking down at your feet if you like. We know which foot we're standing on now. We can bring our gaze forwards. We can start to shift our weight into that standing leg foot, coming onto the ball of the other foot. Good. And then again, we have this decision as we turn our knee out to the side a little bit, where is our foot going to come on the inside of our standing leg? And then gathering the hands into prayer pose. And again, if we can, we just allow ourselves that time to settle into tree pose, our body, our mind, settling into this familiar posture. And then as we settle, we might like to grow our arms up. Keep soft through the shoulders, relaxed through the jaw. And again, the sense of our awareness traveling through the whole of the body, down to the heel, the toes, the ankle, up to the palms and the fingertips, the crown of the head. Lovely. We can gather the hands back to prayer pose whenever we like. And again, another cycle or two if we have it in us of settling in our sort of familiar tree pose. Good. Again, come down for a shake out. Now this time, and Hilary, I hope you're still with us, we're going to come into a forward bend. We're going to do one more balance in a moment. I thought it might be nice to go on into a squat to lengthen out the lower backs. So coming into the forward bend, and it might be that you go sort of part way to a squat, so bending your knees, resting your chest on your thighs. See how that feels. And then you could carry on going further. It doesn't matter if your heels come up. Yes, whatever works for you in terms of a squat. So obviously you don't have to come into a squat. Hilary, I'm often thinking it's good for your lower back. And then how's your back in that, Tracy? Is that good? Yeah. So Tracy's sort of grabbing the mat and pulling it away from her, which is always helpful to stop that toppling back feeling. And when you've had another cycle or so of breath, we'll make our way back through our forward bend and back into standing. Sinking into your heels, rolling back up into standing. So if we're going to come back into one last standing balance, we're going to do the one where we catch our foot, this one, and on into, I think, dance, some sort of little variations. If you can remember which foot you stood on last time, you could start with this foot. So again, have a look at your feet. Organise your feet so they're parallel, space between the big toe and second toe pointing forwards. If you can't remember which foot you stood on, you can stand on your right foot. So take whichever foot you stood on, take that arm up towards the ceiling. And let the shoulder drop, and then start to shift your weight onto that foot. And then you're coming up onto the ball of the other foot. That's it, and you're catching the top of the other foot, so your knee can drop towards the floor. And then we can bring our hand down onto our breastbone. And just settle there for a breath or two, and you're welcome to stay there. But if you want to go on, you could then from there start to reach your arm forwards and your foot back away from your bottom. So a bit like we were doing on our bellies. So reaching forwards with the arm, backwards with the foot, letting the pelvis roll if we like. We might just have a couple of breaths here. So with all this movement in this one, we're perhaps not going to be as sort of quiet and settled as tree pose, and that's nice. That's it. So really reach the foot back away from the bottom. That's very nice with the mudra, Rosie. You can, yeah, Rosie's got her hand turned upwards and touching the thumb and index finger. Yeah, lovely. Good. And yes, do come down whenever you like. Have a little shake out. And then we'll come on to the second side. So again, looking down, I'm just going to get the side on a little bit, looking down at your feet, settling the feet. So we start with that sort of connection with the feet, and then stop looking at the feet, reaching. So you're going to, whichever arm you're going to balance, leg you're going to balance on, that arm reaches up. And then we start to shift our weight over onto that leg and foot. So then it becomes quite easy to bring the other foot off the floor. Catch the top of the foot, let the knee drop towards the floor, and then that's it, hand comes onto your breastbone. So this, if we're thinking about a sort of quiet place, like the tree pose we did, this is the quiet place. If we want to then move on from that quiet place, oops, we can reach our arm forwards and our leg back. You could tip forwards a little bit if you like, but keep really moving your foot back away from your bottom. And if you like Rosie was doing, which is really beautiful, your palm can face upwards and you can touch your thumb to one of your fingers. That lovely mudra there, good. That can really help quite a lot with the balance. That's good, Tracy. Good, yes, come down when you're ready. We're going to do one more forward bend and squat, and this squat we'll take on into cobbler pose. So we'll do a few, we're going to do a few hip things and a little bit of sitting breathing. So just make sure you've got room for your bottom to go down into a squat. And a little bit of distance between your feet. If squatting's hard, you can always have your feet a bit wider apart. And then rolling down into your forward bend. You can have a breath or two in the forward bend. You don't have to rush on into the squat. It's quite nice to be in that sort of half squat where your knees are bent, your chest is close to your thighs. You're letting your head go. And then again, we can start to bend the knees more. Come down into our squat. Once you're in your squat, it can be helpful to let your knees come wider apart so that your body comes down in between them a little bit. Help with the toppling backwards feeling. And from your squat, you're going to bring your fingertips on the floor behind you, if you do that without falling backwards, Tracy, so that you can then lower yourself down. Maybe for a moment in cobbler pose, but then I think we'll lengthen the legs out. So come into cobbler pose, maybe lean back on your arms for a moment. And then after those bent legs, if there's any little rocking things you want to do. But after those bent legs, let's just then take the legs long. So long and wide. Good. And just see how that feels. So we've got all the, yes, exactly. So some of you might be wanting to lean back on your hands. Some of you, Rosie, moving forwards. And I think any of these, little movements you can do here, whether it's the legs rolling, or the body sort of swaying a bit from side to side. We've got a few things we're going to do. That's nice, Tracy. We're going to do some pinwheel things in a moment, but we'll be coming back into this wide sitting, which I'm rather keen on at the moment. So, from your wide sitting, you're going to make your way in a moment back through cobbler pose. So you can lean back on your arms, back through cobbler pose, and then on into pinwheel on one side. And we'll do a little bit of circling in pinwheel. So in your pinwheel, if you're feeling tight in the neck and the shoulders, you could do your variation where you give yourself a hug and let your head hang forwards. So that's an option. You don't have to do that, but if the shoulders and the neck are feeling like they could do with a bit of releasing. Good. Very nice, a little bit of circling. And then I thought we would just do our sort of, I suppose I'd say they're pinwheel twists. So if you're giving yourself a hug, release your arms, and then you're going to come to lean on. So the knee that's going out to the side, you're coming to lean on that arm. And then with the other arm, we start first of all to draw this semicircle from the back toes through to the hand we're leaning on. So we're just swinging the arm. We're just trying to keep it quite fluid. And as we turn towards that supporting arm, our pelvis is coming. with us. Good. And then we can start to slap the hand onto the back of our shoulders, so giving ourselves a slap on our back. And you probably all know where this one's going to, because I think we did it a couple of weeks ago on Friday. So we can slap our hand on our back and leave it there. And then we sink into our supporting arm, let our pelvis come up and follow our fingertips with our eyes up to the ceiling. And then we come back again, hand onto the shoulders. We're going to do this one 3 times, so come all the way out. So swing your arm around, slap yourself on your back, sink into your supporting arm, follow your fingers with your eyes up to the ceiling. Good, and then back down. So we've got this lovely feeling of opening through the front of the body. So one more time, slap ourselves on the shoulders, sink into the arm, follow the fingers to the ceiling. And then this time when you come back down, come all the way into your pinwheel forward bend. And just let yourself have a couple of quiet breaths there, folding over that bent leg. Good. And then let's walk our hands in towards us, and we'll come onto the second side of pinwheel. So you can slide the back leg on top of the leg you just folded over, come through cobbler pose, come onto side 2 of pinwheel. And again, we'll start with a bit of circling here. So if you like to give yourself a hug, let your head hang. That feels good for the shoulders and the neck. I'm just thinking, actually, it's quite good for mine today. That's nice. And just a little bit of circling around on your sit bones, which helps us to settle in our pinwheel. Very nice. Good. Then we can release our arms. We can come to lean onto, so again, the knee that's going out to the side. It's easy this time. We're going the other way. We can start drawing this. So the first stage in this sort of twisty sort of opening movement is this semicircle of the arm from the back toes to the hands. And feeling how the pelvis comes along. We're not leaving our pelvis fixed on the floor. We're letting it follow. It's probably only the legs that don't move. Okay, then start to slap yourself on the back. So swing your arm, give yourself a slap on the back. Good. And whenever you feel ready, you can slap yourself on the back. You can leave your hand there and sink into your supporting arm. And then follow your fingers up to the ceiling with your eyes. Lovely. And then come back down again. So we've just got this lovely movement where we open through the front of our body. So come all the way down, we can swing our arm, we can slap ourselves on the back. We can sink into the arm again, open through the front of the body. Good. So do this 3 times in your own time on this second side. Lovely, very nice. And taking your time, when you've done it 3 times, you can fold into your pinwheel forward bend for a couple of quiet breaths. Good. Just settle down, let the flow of the breath come in and out. And so it's up to you here. If you're feeling quite happy in your pinwheel forward bend, you could have another few breaths there. We're going to come and do some quiet sitting and breathing in a moment. But before that, if you want to revisit your sitting with your legs long and wide, which might be quite nice after all the bent leg of pinwheel. And again, this could be leaning back on your hands or leaning forwards a bit. And a bit of movement, whether it's the legs, that situation, the legs rolling, particularly if you're leaning back on your hands. Yes, or if you're leaning forwards a bit, like you're doing, Rosie, those sort of side-to-side movements are so helpful. And yeah, that's nice, Alison. Those side bending ones are good. I always feel so tight in those. So I thought Yeah. And I was thinking, I was used to say with these wide leg ones, you need to stay in them for a long time, but I think actually maybe you just need to do them very regularly. And that one's I'm quite keen on at the moment. So you can have a little bit longer here if you like. We're going to be thinking about coming into a comfortable sitting position to do some breathing. So it probably isn't sitting wide-legged in the room. You could sit with your legs wide and your back against the wall or the sofa. You obviously could kneel. So it's quite good. It is quite nice to have your back against something, a sofa or a wall. I'm going to wrestle one of my blocks out and sit with my back against my block. So yeah, so just come to however you want to sit. Is that okay there, Tracy?
Yeah.
That looks quite good actually. Good. So we're going to come to a little bit of alternate nostril breathing, but we're going to do this with some sort of colour visualization. So we're actually going to start with a couple of the colours. Now, I do realise I had the most appalling hay fever yesterday, so if you're finding it hard to breathe through your nostrils, you can breathe through your mouth, but it's best to breathe through our nostrils if we can. And we're going to just start breathing through both nostrils, so your hands can rest down. And when you close your eyes, what you're going to start with is as you breathe in, you're going to imagine you're breathing in golden light. So we could think about the lovely sunshine we had yesterday and that hopefully we're going to have later today. So breathing in golden light, golden sunlight maybe. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out grey. And this grey is for sort of apathy, sluggishness, those sort of greyish feelings. So for a few cycles of breath, just stay with this. So breathing in, and as you breathe in, you're imagining breathing in beautiful golden sunlight. And as you exhale, you're breathing out this grey, perhaps a grey mist, grey for apathy, sluggishness. Those feelings of being sort of stuck. And again, breathing in golden light. Breathing out grey. Let's do this for 2 more cycles of breath. So we're going to start to add a couple of other colours in, and also the alternate nostril bits. So we're going to be still breathing in golden light through both nostrils, and then we'll be closing our left nostril, breathing out red for anger through our right. We'll breathe in golden light again, and then we're going to close our right nostril and breathe out black for sadness, despair, depression through the left. So I'll talk you through it. So those are the colours now, red for anger and black for sort of sadness, despair. And we just, we see how these things resonate with us, and maybe this help us be a little bit more aware of how we're feeling at the moment. So start by breathing in through both nostrils, the beautiful golden sunlight. And then use your left index finger to close your left nostril. And you're going to breathe out red for anger through your right nostril. You can imagine that leaving a bit like a red mist. And then rest your hand down, breathe in golden light again through both nostrils. And then with your right index finger, close your right nostril and breathe out black for sadness, despair, depression through the left nostril. And then rest your hand down, breathe in golden sunlight through both nostrils. And then again, breathe out grey through both nostrils. And once more, golden sunlight through both nostrils. And then closing your left nostril, breathe out red for anger through your right nostril. Relax your hand, breathe in golden light through both nostrils. And then closing your right nostril, breathe out black for despair, depression, sadness through the left nostril. And again, you can imagine this like a sort of black, sooty fog. And rest your hand down. Breathe in golden light through both nostrils. Breathe out that sort of grey fog, sort of brain fog, apathy, sluggishness through both nostrils. Breathe in golden light. We're going to go through the colours one more time. So this time really see what resonates with you. So when you're ready to exhale, closing the left nostril, breathing out red for anger, and just noticing whether that is something that's present for you right now. Resting your hand, breathing in golden light. And when you're ready, one last time, breathing out the black, the despair, through the left nostril. And again, just seeing if that's something that's present for you or not at the moment. And then coming back to just the golden light and the grey fog. So breathing in and out through both nostrils for a couple of cycles of breath. So again, we can imagine that beautiful sunlight that we've had on some of these days recently. We're breathing in. Perhaps we're breathing out the sort of rather grey morning we've got today. And when you're ready, you're going to lie down. We'll just have a few, maybe half a dozen or so cycles of breath lying down. And as you're lying down, you could start by, sometimes it's helpful to reflect on that last exercise. And when I was doing it the last couple of days, I was just, always surprised by what I encounter. Sometimes the absence of one of those emotions, or sometimes the presence of one I didn't know was there. And just letting that go and allowing yourself just to be with your breath and your body right now, and the feeling of the ground supporting your weight. Maybe you can hear the sound of the rain. Perhaps we can enjoy that sound when we're inside, we're dry. And warm and sheltered. As much as we might not like to feel grey inside, it's obviously very good for all the plants. No rush unless you need to go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rosie. Have a good weekend. Lovely.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, especially the meditation at the end.
Okay, well, we might come back to that one again. Because, yeah, I find it really helpful.
Thanks, Cara. Bye. Bye.
Bye, Hilary. I hope you're still there. So when someone goes like that, you just never know whether they're there or not. But she just put her name's there, so I sort of think, okay, she's there, but